Hey everyone, this is Nick from the Botch Pit. Today we're going to be talking about the Ashwood Abbey, a compact for Hunter the Vigil. As a terminology reminder, compacts are second-tier hunter organizations, setting them above bands of hunters called cells, yet below conspiracies, which are the largest type of hunter organizations. Now for the history of the Ashwood Abbey. Caught alone in the unending dark, with your back against the wall, pursued by things you barely understand. This is the Vigil, and this is what it means to be a hunter. Hunters do it because they feel that they have to, because they want to get revenge for some loss inflicted on them, or due to just sheer curiosity. The members of Ashwood Abbey have never once pretended they're doing it for anything other than kicks. Since 1855, this cabal of silver spoon-sucking party animals has got its rocks off from killing things that no one has ever been able to kill, and having fun with them. Sex and killing seem to be equally common these days, and not necessarily in that order. The original Ashwood Abbey was conceived in Scotland near Edinburgh. It was the home of a very bad man by the name of Reverend Dr. Marcus MacDonald Ogilvie. He held debauched court over one of the several so-called Hellfire Clubs, which were secret societies of like-minded, well-connected men and women who sought to smash the taboos of the day. By modern standards, their recreational drugs, casual sex, and public bondage was tame. However, our dear Reverend urged his followers to break the rules any way they could. It was during an outdoor orgy one midsummer night that changed the fate of the Abbey forever. I kid you not. During this time, a pack of werewolves, who greatly objected that the Abbey was taking turns screwing against a sanding stone that they put some great time into, killed many of the Abbey's members. The ones who didn't get killed did what any normal person would: run away scared. When Ogilvie and a dozen armed men went back the next day to get rid of the bodies, what they found was chewed and destroyed corpses, bloody bones scattered all along the quarters of the site, as if it was a marker and a warning. Now, most Victorian clergymen would have seen this as perhaps some divine intervention as to give up their sinning lifestyle. Thankfully for us, Reverend Ogilvie was no conventional clergyman. He led his inner circle back to the stones 3 nights later, and on top of that same hill, and in front of his compatriots, he masturbated greatly over the central stone. When the werewolves finally arrived, he shot them with silver bullets from his elephant gun. His only disappointment was that he couldn't hang their heads on his wall as they reverted back into their human forms after he had killed them. Over the next decade, Ogilvie's followers bagged everything from a 6-armed demon goddess they caught in India and let loose in Berkshire, to a 1,000-year-old man made of pieces of dead people. Poor Ogilvie unfortunately perished swiftly and untimely at the wooden talons of a 3-armed goblin. However, the society continued, becoming a high-class clubhouse of sorts. Several members moved to the New World at the end of the 19th century. Other chapters were set up across Europe. The society expanded. These days, however, the chapters exist more or less independently. However, they are pyramid schemes. That's how the entire compact is laid out. Each iteration of the Hellfire Club, whether it be a single cell or multiple cells, pays dues up the club from which they purchase the license. That's right, licensure and franchises. But what prevents them from overrunning the world? First, the cost. If one wants in, they're willing to pony up for it. $100,000 to over $1 million for a single license. Second, the secrecy. This is an exclusive club. It must be kept that way. Those who offer a license are held accountable for its members who go off the rails, draw the police, involve themselves in behavior concerning ill breeding and low culture. Someone will cut that branch. And being clear here, cutting off isn't telling someone they are no longer part of it and sweeping the franchise from underneath them. It's a syringe to the neck and a burial plot in the foundation of some new bank or stadium. So, why join the Abbey? It's got all the benefits of any quality country or gentleman's club. Whiskeys age 100 years, the finest cigars, the most exotic food, access to the best golf courses and islands, and all the other insurmountable joys of being wealthy and fortunate. This means they don't really extend their hands to scrubs. Trust funds? Last name on a hotel chain? Welcome to the club. If, however, you have a single studio apartment, you aren't getting past the door. And if you happen to be intriguing to them, that isn't necessarily a good thing, you monster. Even though they've earned a reputation as rapists and monsters, and for some that is certainly a true assessment, but for most, it's for the thrill of it all. They already have power. What they don't possess is excitement. In the upper echelons, boredom is a threat, and the Abbey combats that. Some cells hold small affair parties, salons really, where they invite one or a few monsters to have their way with. Not killing, per se, but I'll let your imagination run wild with this. Another club have large parties, lavish affairs with $10,000 worth of food spreads and cherry-picked with the hottest celebrities. At midnight, they open the cages, free their doped-up captives, and hunt them in horses, golf carts, or in their Maseratis. One of the many clubs in New York City gets its enjoyment from the long con, playing monsters against other monsters, stirring great supernatural wars, brokering peace just to ruin it, and so on. The Abbey plays with monsters the same way kings once toyed with commoners. Joining is an odd business. Some people are asked, though more commonly, they are coerced into joining. A prospect is invited to a dinner party held by the membership. They reveal they hunt monsters. They describe the location of a prospective victim and make an elaborate show of drawing lots. There's a big bag of billiard balls, all red except one white, and the one who draws a white one has the distinct privilege of leading the hunt. And guess who always gets it? The new guy or gal. It's fixed, of course, and by the end of it, the new member is either full-fledged or quite dead. The live ones quickly learn that membership has its privileges, but it also has steep costs. For one, money. A hunter pays dues, just like a member of a country club. One can expect $1,000 a month for dues, plus fees for use of the golf club, to maintain the weapons locker, to pay for parties, to entice the quarry, and so on. For two, the work. You can't leave scouting for the ignorant masses, and that takes time. For three, you sign up, you're in it for life. You didn't think you could actually leave, could you? Good luck with that. Some clubs even have contracts in place for this. It's like the mob, but with richer and stranger criminals. As for the members themselves, a lot are missing eyes or limbs or sport spectacular scars. Many are dead or, worse, the will-less thralls of mages, vampires, or other creatures who have caused several chapters to become hopelessly compromised. But for some, that's such a thrill. The Compact exists with three faces. Face 1, the old world. Real exclusive gents, maybe descendants of royals, famous politicians, or even old adventurers. This is old money. Their hunts are less about debauchery and more a sense of the old boys club going out on a fox hunt. Phase 2, New Blood. The Western world's concentration in new money embodied. Real estate barons, CEOs, Wall Street kingpins, the works. This is more a country club than a gentleman's club filled with men and women in their 30s to 60s. Phase 3, Rich, Young Punks. The children of privilege. The daughters of rock stars, the sons of hotel scions. They are too young to be bored, yet too rich to be properly entertained. The Abbey also has three distinct cliques that their members fall into. The first is competitors, who gain the free specialty of intimidation boast. They treat the whole thing as sport, and the other members are their competition. The name says it all. It's a game. The competitors are perhaps the least devoted to the Vigil, because to them, it's just another avenue of one-upsmanship. A secret that goes along with them is the annual Black Royal Regatta. This has nothing to do with boats, but it is used to throw off people who may actually hear the name. Those in the know either discover it on their own and are allowed to participate or are dealt with, Or perhaps they gain invitations when they've sufficiently impressed the self-proclaimed Royal Council. The goal is different every year. The Council puts forth a single target, which may be a sacred object of importance held by a monster, or even the head of an infamous creature. The cell that brings it first is assured $1 million bonus and a rather significant boost to its status within the compact. The second is Pursuit, which gain the free specialty Stealth, Hide in Plain Sight. They want to know secrets, the most awful things they can, yet they just want to see and experience rather than do. They want the absolute juiciest events of a hunt. They are, quite frankly, the gossip mongers of the hunter world. They exist almost as a more salacious, miniature version of Network Zero, connecting with one another, sharing snuff films and verboten documents, creating clandestine events where they can spy on a single creature or fellow hunter for days, even weeks, recording the whole event for distribution later. Of course, this makes them one of the most useful groups in the Ashwood Abbey. An example secret is the Ring. Within the Abbey exists a ring of truly privileged hunters that have a pristine and bizarre collection of information and artifacts, both historical and conspiracy proving, that makes them incredibly dangerous. They know way too much about the monsters and the other hunter organizations. From time to time though, they purge some of their prized collection in a secret online auction. The third is Libertines, who gain the free specialty Persuasion, Seduction. They want to break taboos. They want to find brave new worlds. In most things they do, revolt even the Abbey. One might assume that they are hunters still. However, their concept of the hunt is radically different from everyone else's. Conquest is still a critical aspect, but it's the conquest of ideas and perceptions. They are less likely to hurt a creature and far more likely to exploit its already unnatural desires to get their rocks off. A secret concerning this group is rather disturbing. One of the Abbey's numbers was recently impregnated by a vampire. Vampires, being quite dead, reportedly can't do that, causing quite a puzzling anomaly. Although this woman is among their numbers, their interest in her child is murderous. They don't want it getting out that their habits can lead to such unwanted complications. As a disclaimer, I didn't make any of this stuff up about the Abbey. As for status within the Abbey, it mostly comes from getting a reputation for being adventurous, for putting on great, bizarre parties, and doing imaginative things with your quarry. Hunter the Vigil lists its own status rankings. However, they have been since updated in Hunter the Vigil Mortal Remains. These updates are: at 1, you gain the Barfly merit for free. At 3, your chapter house counts as 2 dots, divided as you see fit between the Safe Place, Safe House Cash, and Safe House Secrecy merits. At 5 dots, you gain 4 instances of the Contacts merit representing legal, vice, arms trafficking, and Ashwood Abbey networking. For systems, we have the Abbey Endowment Bacchanal. It's not referred to as the Bacchanal, more often known as a party, salon, soiree, celebration, festival, or even orgy, which has its own rules associated with it, but to be honest, I'm really trying my best to steer away from this conversation the best I can for you guys. But the Abbey keeps trying to drag me into it. If you want that, read the book. The Abbey hunters possess more than just money. They possess privilege, which can be spent in ways money cannot. With this endowment, once per story, they can hold a grand guignol ball that buys them a small number of advantages. No role is required to hold a party, and the number of guests that come to such a party is roughly equal to 20 times the dots possessed in this endowment. This would equate to approximately 60 attendees if the hunter has 3 dots in this merit. The real advantage is what the hunter can buy during and after the event. These include Abbey Influence, Famous Guests, Sphere of Influence, Supernatural Sway, and Tactical Advantage, which all affect either social or combat roles. Ashwood Abbey versus the World of Darkness. An overarching concept is that the Abbey's knowledge of monsters is woefully inadequate in many ways. They don't actually seek too much information because there is not much sport in that, is there? Ashwood Abbey versus Vampire the Requiem. It didn't take the Ashwood Abbey long to verify that there really are vampires. The first member to claim the head of a vampire was none other than Compact founder Reverend Ogilvy. After hearing the premise of a blood-sucking creature stalking the city of Edinburgh by night, he organized his inner circle for some sport. Ogilvy carried his trusty elephant gun into battle, as well as a cavalry saber and a flask full of holy water. When the hunt ended, several Abbey members were dead, but so was the vampire. A stake in its heart and its head removed after several enthusiastic slashes with the saber. Ogilvy had the head preserved, mounted, and hung as a trophy in his den. This historic hunt taught Abbey members that brute force and a bit of tenacity were more reliable weapons for a vampire hunt than most others. Shockingly, the Abbey does have reasons for hunting vampires other than just the entertainment value. Vampires have a tendency to muck around in the affairs of politicians, judges, and other figures of high society to which most of the Abbey belongs. Finding out that the mayor is enthralled to an undead leech when he was supposed to be owned by the Abbey is both embarrassing and irritating. Sometimes it's important to remind such creatures of their place. Grudgingly to admit, it doesn't require much imagination to picture vampires as a whole like an undead version of the Ashwood Abbey. Both groups enjoy hedonistic pursuits and neither group is overly burdened with pesky morals. Their only separation is their choice of victim. Vampires don't love, they possess. They don't feel joy or happiness, only swiftly fading satisfaction. Even the hatred or anger felt by a vampire is a cold, dead thing fueled by spite rather than passion. The destruction of a vampire and the rush that comes from pursuing them is life-affirming to the Abbey. Not every vampire is public enemy number one, of course. They can pull strings that Abbey hunters cannot. Whenever possible, the Abbey invites vampires to its parties. It would be rude to not offer a guest refreshment, and so the Abbey even encourages vampires to feed from willing members, both for the spectacle and for the pleasure. Proof that no detail is too small, the Abbey even decorates these parties with their guests' special needs in mind. Long, fancy tablecloths hide the fact that all of these tables are cheaply constructed from sheets of plywood with 4 solid wooden legs glued in place. If the hunters grow bored of their guests, they flip the tables over and wrench the legs free from the plywood. They tussle, they bludgeon, they stake the poor creature and where, appropriately, enjoy a taste of the fiend's blood. Vampire blood is an excellent high that every member must experience at least once. The Abbey, however, doesn't really understand the properties of vampire blood, other than the euphoria it produces. They have a vague understanding that the blood is addictive. Sadly lacking is the knowledge that repeatedly drinking the blood from the same vampire can lead to more than just addiction. The Abbey does, however, realize that members who spend a lot of time around vampires seem to grow inordinately attached to them. Once a year, around midsummer, the Ashwood Abbey chapter in Seattle conducts what they call a charity drag. After a month of monitoring vampiric activity in the lower income areas of the city, the entire chapter descends into the slums for a weekend and hunts and kills all vampires. Ashwood Abbey vs. Werewolf the Forsaken. The members of Ashwood Abbey are no strangers to werewolves. We can thank Reverend Ogilvy for that. A good wolf hunt is considered to be the height of fashion for cells across Europe and the United Kingdom, often drawing interested participants from all over the continent. It's considered de rigueur to take the ears of dead werewolves as trophies. Some even send them, packed in salt, to the late Reverend Ogilvy's estate, though hunters outside the UK rarely follow this. The Holy Grail is, of course, a werewolf fur coat, but this leads to all sorts of problems since the fur vanishes as the werewolf dies. It's rumored that some wealthy members of the compact go so far as to completely skin the human bodies of the dead werewolves and lay them out as trophy rugs in their private libraries or sitting rooms, but no one who's sober is willing to admit that fact. All too often, a wolf hunt comes up empty-handed as the hunting party, emphasis on party, grows too large and unwieldy to effectively run the prey to ground. Sometimes the werewolf turns the tables and picks off the more careless members of the party. The hunters usually win when the monster foolishly tries to confront them all at once. They may be hedonists and libertines, but they can also afford the best firepower and all the silver bullets they can carry as well. Not all members go for hunting parties. Great white hunters of centuries past went into areas known for werewolf activity and stalked their prey with patience, cunning, and large bore rifles. They were also perfectly willing to use loved ones as bait if necessary to draw monsters out. Others take a different approach, stalking shapeshifters in their human guises and seducing them before putting a bullet in their brain. The game of wits and passion between hunter and hunted can quicken the pulse of even the Abbey's most jaded members. And the moment of revelation, when the monster realizes they have been deceived, is truly something to savor. Complications have arisen that comes with this territory. Though none of these forgotten children have become werewolves themselves, yet the leaders frown upon this practice. Spirits themselves don't offer much in the way of entertainment for the compact. Why bother with such common fare when there are so many more interesting creatures roaming the world? It is rumored that a cell in France dallied for more than a year with a murderous spirit known only as Jean-Pierre, who possessed working-class laborers in Lille and took out its urges on the host families. The cell reportedly made a game of it, hunting Jean-Pierre down, killing its host, and letting the spirit loose to find another body before starting the chase once more. Had the spirit not run into a cell from the Malleus Maleficarum several months later, the game would still be on today. Ashwood Abbey vs. Mage the Awakening. Witches are too dangerous to play around with, and far too dangerous to roam free, and you're going to be the one that puts them down. What is a witch but a man or woman who can do all the things you might dream of? What is a witch but the essence of humanity unfettered by simple limits of reality? Doesn't this make them the mirror image of the Abbey itself? Where members of the Ashwood Abbey shatter taboos and refuse to live fettered by laws of morality and decency, a witch shatters the concentrations of what the universe is and lives unfettered by the laws of physics. The sheer unpredictability of a witch makes it a positively exhilarating hunt. The information the Abbey has on witches is less encyclopedic and more anecdotal. The net result is that while the Abbey has a fairly wide range of lore on what witches might do, they know fairly little about what witches actually are. Occasionally, when friendly contact is established with a witch, the less psychotic ones are a blast at parties. The will worker tries to explain the philosophies behind their power, and the Abbey smiles politely, nods, and assures them that it's all very fascinating, and would they care for another hit of ecstasy? The Abbey's typical approach to dealing with a witch is not that dissimilar to its approach to a prospective new member. At the end of the night, the hunters cast a private vote as to whether or not the witch proved sufficiently entertaining. If the consensus is that they were a charming guest, that's the end of it. Everybody goes home with one more story of how shocking they are, and the Abbey tries to maintain cordial contact with its guests of honor. However, if they turned out to be a dreadful bore, then the evening's second entertainment kicks off. It may be as harmless as dosing the witch's drink and having some fun, or it might involve declaring a hunt on the now liquored up and otherwise impaired magician. However, the Abbey realizes not all witches are suitable party guests. Witch hunts are a popular feature of the Abbey's soirees in some parts of the world, particularly in the northeastern United States and parts of Germany. On February 29th, the anniversary of the first arrests in the Salem witch trials, the Abbey holds an annual Hawthorne Ball in Boston. Abbey members dress up in period garb for an elaborate costume ball, and at midnight retire to a hedge maze in which a captured witch is hidden. The hunter to strike the killing blow is given the title Justice Hawthorne for the rest of the year and is given great status and honor until the next year's ball. Ashwood Abbey vs. Promethean the Created. When Prometheans are concerned, the Abbey is almost bound to cross that line due to disquiet. An Abbey hunter that has time to succumb to disquiet generally sees the Promethean in question as the ultimate quarry, either as a sexual conquest or trophy. Reverend Ogilvy's original Hellfire Club included a man who attempted to build the perfect house servant from spare parts. However, the Abbey is offended at the idea that these creatures could become human. Upward mobility is not allowed. If the supernatural can become human, then the Abbey is just a collection of rich perverts hunting down, violating, and killing potential people? That simply wouldn't do. If the Abbey ever discovered proof of a Promethean meeting the new dawn, they might actually get serious about the Vigil for once. Ashwood Abbey vs. Changeling the Lost. The Ashwood Abbey is more likely to contain changelings than it is to hunt them. Because their masks make them mostly indistinguishable from humans, the lost are protected from unwanted Abbey attention. If the Abbey became aware of the lost's true nature, especially a beast or an ogre, they might be considered prime hunting targets. To some experimentally minded members of the Compact, they might find it interesting to see how much abuse a being made of stone, ice, or steel could take before breaking. Others interact not as targets or infiltrators, but as suppliers. One who knew the secrets of creating intoxicating potions made from fey blood, or raising exotic foodstuffs in the borderlands of the hedge might be listed as an Abbey employee. The Spring Court, where desire and passion rule supreme, and the fairest seeming, where physical beauty and social manipulation excuse almost any behavior, seem well suited to the Abbey. Changelings, focused on stalking hedge beasts, may lead or participate in a unique hunt with Abbey members in the hedge. The hedge is the ultimate hunting ground for the Ashwood Abbey, a wild territory filled with a near limitless selection of creatures and beings both fantastic and fearsome, and hunters don't need to worry about cleaning up after themselves here. A lost who willingly opens a doorway into the hedge could probably write his own check for the favor, at least until the Abbey started wondering exactly how he was doing it and what that said about the nature of the changeling himself. Ashwood Abbey vs. Hunter the Vigil. The Abbey tends to prefer those hunter groups that gather information rather than those that weigh in all guns blazing. Where's the fun in that? Once all the boring stuff has been completed, the Abbey sidelines them, perhaps giving them false leads or arranging for them to be conveniently somewhere else. After that, all bets are off and the fun can begin. When you're the kind of person who loves a good hunt, what better prey than a killer possessed of native cunning, speed, determination, and a seeming inability to lie down and know he's licked? Of course, the Abbey members are mostly borderline psychos anyway, and slashers, particularly charmers and geniuses, might get a kick out of joining. There have been several members of the Ashwood Abbey who, over the years, have maintained dual membership to the Hunt Club. Slashers who once belonged to the Ashwood Abbey are particularly prone to the predilection of cannibalism due to its forbidden aspect. In 1888, a group from the Abbey found Jack the Ripper himself. The story among the Abbey was that he joined. He was good at killing beasts, but then he got bored and went back to killing prostitutes again. You don't leave the Abbey. So the Abbey hunted him down. Ashwood Abbey vs. Geists the Sin Eaters. Ghostwalkers present a moral dilemma for Ashwood Abbey. Most importantly though, revenants seem to have a fun approach to the world. They speak of living life and having fun, everything the Abbey doesn't expect a death-oriented creature to do. They, however, are interesting to hunt. They can come back from the dead and be hunted again. They can also take an enormous amount of punishment. Prolonging a hunt and their tendency to bleed ectoplasm makes for one hell of a show. However, the Abbey hasn't gotten the hint that ghostwalkers are exceptionally dangerous. Worse, the haunted seem very good at warning their fellow ghostwalkers of what's going on. This has gone from a minor inconvenience to a royal pain for the Abbey. The situation is tense and is leading up to a great conflict. Many interactions, if not all, are hostile between the two groups. Ghostwalkers don't seem to know much about the Abbey, but they know enough to have some idea of what the Compact represents, and they are angry. Ashwood Abbey vs. Mummy the Curse. Cults worshipping Santa Muerte, or Saint Murder, have sprung up all over Mexico. In Mexico City, however, it seems the female Reaper has some kind of physical analog. The Abbey hasn't really gotten a good look at the mummy behind the cult. They don't even know if she's real. All the hunters know is that the cult seems split into two factions, between drug dealers who murder and dismember people in the name of the saint, and middle-aged mothers and grandmothers who work hard to make the city safe and protect its children, fallen women, and hard-working citizens. It's hard to say which faction the saint backs, but considering the unusual success the women are having cleaning up the streets, the Abbey suspects they're aided by supernatural means, and that cleanup is causing a real problem in the Abbey's revenue stream. Ashwood Abbey vs. Demon the Descent. Greater demons play the most dangerous game. After all, greater demons can be anybody. Hunting one down could range from infiltrating the world of high fashion or a Silicon Valley startup to slumming it with the homeless vets and gutter punks. Members of the pursuit often start out tagging along with competitors. Pursuers with a taste of theoretical horror often find themselves spending too much time interrogating demonic subjects. There's so much to uncover, so much of history that just might be a lie. Even better, the possibility of institutional demons. Libertines tend to enjoy being ridden by demons. For those who know, demonic possession is practically a rite of passage. Once you go infernal, your love is eternal. Oh, the thrill of it, to indulge in a demon's urges. Some members of the pursuit often wonder, could one manage to be possessed by more than one demon at once? Wouldn't that be amazing? Besides, the Abbey has a reputation. Willing members will trade away their humanity for cheap thrills. Who's to say one might not give up their soul to a greater demon for a final amazing night on the town? Ashwood Abbey vs. Beasts, the Primordial. Did you know that both fear and arousal are dictated by the same chemicals in the brain? Chemically speaking, being afraid and being turned on are almost identical. So, what's hotter than hunting nightmares made flesh? A chapter in Northern California likes to hold parties in dream realms, and nightmare hunts are a big deal for them. Thing is, these monsters are really niche. They're interesting if you have specific interests, but there's typically something easier to find and just as worthwhile, unless you're obsessed with the rare hunt. In conclusion, my final thought is that I like the Ashwood Abbey. Now let me clarify that. I like the Ashwood Abbey mainly as antagonists, as well as storytelling tools due to their versatility across multiple game lines. I sincerely hope you gathered by now that they are not good people, but their implementation can't be ignored. Truthfully, they've really skeeved me out, and this recording was actually pretty hard for me to do it sometimes. Also, something to kind of digest and chew on is that every monster in the world of darkness that a player character usually has the ability to take control of was at one time usually a human. That contextual framing really shifts the Abbey into a more even distorted version than what they currently are. They're rich psychopaths. They are just one standard deviation away from full-blown slashers. The Hunt Club is their best friend. These are not people you want to mess with. On even just a financial level and privilege level and power level, you stand no chance against these people. In the whole in-it-for-life mentality, like what if you were tricked into joining the Abbey? What happens if you didn't know what you were signing up for, and now they have you in there for life? That would be a really awesome story angle to pursue with these people. And more often than not, you're disposable. You are effectively a suicide squad for their enjoyment. It's a more of a love-hate relationship with them. On a final and lighter note, I really do find it quite humorous that not even the Ashwood Abbey wants anything to do with Beast. It's too perfect, you can't make that up. This has been Nick from the Botch Pit. Thank you.